Hello, and welcome to the Everyday Business Problems Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Crysler. Each episode, we talk to business leaders and subject matter experts to learn about the challenges they've overcome and the challenges they still face. You'll hear fresh insights, real talk, and get inspiration to grow your business. Hey everybody, I'm so excited to be welcoming Michael DeLon, who creates credibility to the podcast today. As president of Paperback Expert, Michael helps business owners publish a book that positions them as the expert in their field. Business owners seek out Michael to clarify their brand strategy and make them best-selling authors. They use his credibility marketing strategies to gain more clients, get more referrals, and to grow their revenue. Michael, thanks so much for coming on the Everyday Business Problems Podcast.
Dave, you are welcome. Thanks for having me. It is going to be a fun time and a great conversation.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about it. You're definitely somebody that I was looking forward to chatting with. I think for various reasons, right? I think everybody looks at marketing as a bit of a mystery. Everybody is trying to figure out how to make themselves stand out amongst, the tens of thousands, if not, hundreds of thousands of people that do the same exact things.
Yeah.
And I love what you've been doing, in terms of your business and how you help position people that way. So again, excited to have you on today.
Thanks, man. Yeah. I just love talking about all of this, everything you talked about. So let's make it really valuable for your audience and see what kind of help we can give to people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, as I was digging through kind of how I wanted to position this conversation, I think the best place to start is that differentiation, because I think it's something that everybody can benefit from. Business owners, business leaders, employees. So when it comes to differentiating yourself, what are some of those key kind of strategies? What are some of the things we should be thinking about when it comes to that?
Great question, Dave. And I really, it boils down to, I would say it's your message first, but the message really has to back up to say, it's your unique story. We all have a story, and most of us are not telling it because we think it doesn't relate or whatever, okay? Can I give you some examples as we walk through this thing? Okay.
Yeah, I would love it. Love it.
All right. And most of them are going to be book related, okay? So forgive me there. But I had a client come to me a number of years ago. He's a personal injury attorney down in Florida. And when he came to me, he was the little David against two big Goliaths in his market, okay? These guys were spending like $100,000 a month, and my guy's like, I can't do that. And I said, okay, tell me, why are you in Florida? Because he came from the Northeast, originally grew up in the Northeast, went to Florida on a baseball scholarship. He was going to the pros on a pitching scholarship, right? He was that good in pitching. And 2 years in college, he threw his arm out, had to have surgery, rehabilitation, all of that, killed his baseball career, killed his scholarship for college. He had to pivot, finish his college degree, ended up becoming an attorney, a personal injury attorney. So he helps people who've been in accidents. And I said, William, have you ever told that story? And he looks at me and says, no. I said, okay, we're going to. So we took his story, we published his book, and we named his book, When Life Throws You a Curveball. Okay? What to Do When You're in a Serious Accident by William Franke, baseball player turned attorney. Now, Dave, do you think that message separates him from all the big dog attorneys who say, you've been hit by a truck, we just won $18 billion? Who cares? They all say that.
Yeah.
What he does is he sponsors going like a morning TV show, right? And I said, William, when you go on there looking like an attorney, which he does, I said, I want you to carry a baseball mitt and a ball. And I want you to talk about how life threw you a curveball and talk to the audience and say, if life has thrown you a curveball, and you've been hit by a truck or slipped at work or something, I understand where you are. And I'd love to help you get back on your feet and get the settlement you deserve. Why don't you get a free copy of my book at my website? And then we'll talk about your situation. It's that simple. Every business owner listening to this, Dave, has a story to tell. They're just not telling it. We just help them get it and make it fun and say, now you can use that and tell it everywhere you go. So I would say that's the first thing is connect with the story that's deep within you and use it in your marketing.
Yeah, I mean, that is like tremendously powerful. And what a great example. I think the big struggle point for everybody is, and I'll throw myself under the bus with this, right? But I think the biggest struggle point is, you've lived this story. So it doesn't feel like it's,
Right.
like it's anything magical or special. It's like, this is my everyday life. I know how to do this. I went through that, I learned all these hard lessons. And so it often takes an outside force,
Oh, yeah.
to pull those pieces out of you. And it's not that you didn't have it. It's not that, you don't bring something special to this skill set that you've, amassed over for most of us, a number of years. But it does take somebody that has been through this time and time again and can pick up on those nuggets to put it together in a cohesive way.
Yeah.
And whether you try to do that on your own through trial and error, or you engage an expert, marketer who has done this stuff, right? Would you agree with that? Like, do you think that people just kind of generally gloss over the fact that, like, here's how I ended up, using your example, like, hey, yeah, what's the big deal? I used to play baseball. Now I can't because I got injured,
Yeah.
How many?
100%. We all have those stories. I helped a financial advisor a couple weeks ago. He came to me and he's not ready to do his book yet. So we just focused on his message, right? I got his background. At 12, he did a lawn mowing business, right? In college, he sprayed fertilizer stuff on yards. Then he started a business to kind of manicure golf courses and things. And now he's a financial advisor. And I read all that. I'm like, dude. So we positioned him as the financial groundskeeper, helping you cultivate a green financial future without the weeds, or something like that. And what it does is it takes all of his background, but when he's talking to somebody now, they say, okay, what do you do? Oh, I'm a financial advisor.
Yeah.
All right. Versus, I'm a financial groundskeeper. Well, what's that? Tell me about that. It's more intriguing. I didn't do anything, Dave, but ask him a few questions, get his background, and use what God's given me to kind of piece the things together and wordsmith something that when I shared that with him, he's like, I've thought about that a lot, but I could never get there. And yeah. So yes, to the answer of your question, we all have it. We just have to use it and realize that's a whole lot more interesting than saying, I'm a financial advisor, or I'm an attorney, or who cares?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's I love it, and I think the takeaway, the kind of, zooming out, the bigger takeaway is too, right? Everybody, regardless of if you're, on the ground floor doing something for somebody else, you're always looking for ways to separate yourself from the other folks that do what you do. And so even at that level, even if you're, maybe listening to this and you're not thinking, hey, I'm not a business owner, I'm not in leadership, I have no ambition to write a book. What is underneath all of that, right? Are these story threads, are the things that weave our kind of life and experience together. And that is the differentiating factor. So learning how to tap into that, can do anybody that is looking to get ahead good.
So in corporate world, I was in ministry for 10 years in a big ministry, had 350 people in it, right? And we were from all over the country. And there was this one guy there, Robert Coletti, and he used to be a mailman, okay? And then he got into the company, and then he did like conferences and things. But I always thought about Robert, I'm like, you know what? Robert's the guy who delivers results. Because of his mailman background, he delivered mail, but because Robert showed up and he got things done, and I always thought Robert delivers results. So if you're in a corporate environment, you can use backgrounds or things to say, this is who I am, right? I tend to have this vibrant, outgoing personality. It's really funny because I'm an introvert, but I play the game really well. But people know that I'm vibrant. I bring energy. And so, they see me as like this Energizer bunny. And that's kind of how people see me. Well, okay, great. I'll show up that way and I will infuse the meeting with some energy and some laughter so that we can get some things done.
Yeah.
So wherever you are, you have uniquenesses. You just need to pull them out, and people connect with that. They really resonate with it.
Yeah. How did you find yourself kind of learning, the generalized story framework? Was this something that you felt was something really natural for you. And then, kind of part two to that is how do you help other people bring that out outside of just kind of asking those types of questions to learn what's underneath?
Yeah, great question. So it goes all the way back to my radio days. In the 90s, I was working for Christian radio, and I was selling Christian radio to business owners and things. And I was following a marketing guy that I still follow today, Roy Williams. He's known as the Wizard of Ads. And listening to Roy, going to his workshops, reading his books, he talked a lot about story and how terrible most radio advertising is, which we all know that, right? And then in the early 90s or so, we all experienced Tom Bodett and Motel 6, right? Remember that?
Yeah.
First time ever, I was driving in my car, heard a radio ad, reached down and turned up the volume to listen to a radio ad. Why? Because it was a story. And he always had stories, and he always ended with we'll leave the light on for you. But he changed that franchise from losing money to making money through story. So Roy Williams taught me the importance of storytelling. I've just applied it in business and to people. So that's number one. Where did I learn this? Roy Williams, the Wizard of Ads. Number two, how do I help people? Well, obviously, God's given me this ability to peer into people's lives, and through 8 questions, I can find these things. But if you don't want to work with me, then get your buddy and go out someplace and coffee shop or something like that, and turn on your phone or a computer, some kind of recording device. Just record the whole conversation and have them ask you questions about your background. Where did you live? Tell me about your family. How many kids were in your family? What were your hobbies? Did you play sports? Where'd you go to college? Why do you live where you live? What do you do? What you do? Ask it and just talk. And then get that thing transcribed or listen to it, and you will see themes coming up, just like that financial groundskeeper.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the beginning of going, never really put all that together, but maybe there's something there. Then you have to go and kind of wordsmith it and make it. But that's how you do it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it reminds me of a phrase I use often, right? It's simple, not easy. Right?
Very much so.
It is very simple, but it is not easy because it takes a skill set and a lot of iteration, a lot of examples, and obviously you have a lot of examples to pull from to bring each one of those pieces together. And it's not just about talking about, again, I'll pick on myself. It's not just about talking about the fact that I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. It's that plus I've got all this experience with the really large companies. So now I've got 2 ends of the spectrum that, I bring into working with the clients I work with today. And that's meaningful for a lot of people because they're on some part of that spectrum. They're either in a small family-run business, they are actively scaling, they're maybe acquiring other businesses. So they're somewhere in that mix. They can see themselves in those experiences. And it's that practical experience that is the real value that, somebody like yourself, myself, anybody in a professional services role, plays.
Absolutely. Yeah. As you explained that, I just envisioned a pendulum and a grandfather clock, right? And that's what you just described. You've walked that whole pendulum, and no matter where somebody is on the pendulum, you can meet them, Dave, and you can help them and guide them and direct them. And the cool thing is, and what I guess what I do naturally that I don't think about too much is I take unrelated things and relate them. Okay. You didn't say anything about a pendulum, but the fact that you talked about business owners being on one end or the other connected with me, it's like, well, that's just a pendulum. That's all it is. Now I've got something to work with. So I just do that. I just do that naturally. But that's what you need is somebody like that in your life to go, oh, I got that. Let's run this.
Yeah. And I really love the, just kind of, I think sometimes we're so into our, kind of into our head over it, like, especially if we're actively trying to work on marketing, we're thinking that it has to be something as magical as the examples you've already brought out. And, it gets there. It's a process to get to that point, but doing something literally as simple as having somebody ask questions, you not thinking that you're being recorded and that it has to be a perfect story. There are moments you can pull out of that. So I really love, that process for people. Let's shift gears a bit and talk more specifically about your process to help folks actually write a book, because
Sure.
I kind of love the way that you position this. I've not heard other folks that are out there doing similar things. And I think it builds on what you just said. So I'm going to pause there and let you kind of chat through what the process is like, and how you help people do this without, having to sit there and look at a blank screen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, okay. So our process and our phraseology is we help you create a book without writing a word. Okay. And how we do that is after you meet with me and work with me for 30 days to get your message, right? And the book title, theme, all of that laid out, we bring one of our professional writers to the table. I've got about 12 writers on staff. One of them is going to start working with you on the Zoom calls. And their job, Dave, is to ask you questions and extract the genius that's in your brain and get it out and start organizing the flow of your book, the outline for your book, chapter by chapter and things based on what you want to talk about. And once the outline's created, which takes about 3 or 4 calls, then we walk through what we call our speak to write process. Because I know one thing, Dave, you're an expert at what you do and you can talk about it all day long. I guess that's 2. But what we do is we just set you up based on that outline and say, okay, Dave, tell us about the process improvements that you bring to, or what is a challenge that one of your prospects is facing? And then we shut up and you talk. We record it. And our writer is just guiding you through this whole process. So after about 5 or 6 calls, we have all of the content we need for your book. Now the writer goes back and they start massaging the words you've given us into the book. And we send you a couple chapters and say, review this, Dave. Have we captured your tone, your voice, your message? Is this what you're looking for? If the rest of your book's like this, are you happy? And as soon as you say yes, then the writer keeps writing and sending you chapters and you review. And it takes less than 24 hours of your time. It takes us, 6 or 7 or 8 months. Sure. And then once it's done, we, obviously do all the editing and the formatting and the design, create a stunning cover and publish it. And we do everything, Dave, except the content, because that's stuck in your head. We just extract it and get it on there. So that's a high level overview.
Yeah. Now, I love it, though, because, again, it's back to the simplicity and back to where I think, again, we want to talk about marketing. We want to talk about specifically, authoring a book. I think it's where most people struggle. It's, I see this big, it's the how do you eat an elephant, right? It's the same concept here. It's you look at it and it's like, oh my gosh, this thing is massive. Do I start at the front? Do I start at the back? Like, do I start from the top, the bottom? Like, what do I even do with this thing? Yeah. And, the reality of it is, right, it doesn't have to be that way. It's right. All these small iterations. It's the one bite at a time. And so instead of being overwhelmed with, the thought of authoring a book or creating this cohesive marketing message about why you're different than, the thousands of other, process improvement consultants and systemization folks and optimization folks and Six Sigma folks and, all of the plethora of people that, say that their thing is the best, right? It's how do you move forward in, that one bite at a time, one step at a time, and do something that's actually going to provide the results that you're after. So that's what I really love about what you guys do there. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say it's about as close as done for you in book publishing that we can get, because we're not creating the content. Yeah. Other than that, it's simple. If you can show up on some calls, and it does really. All right, let me go on a little tangent here, then we'll get back to your next question.
Yeah.
Most websites, I talk with business owners all week, Dave. Most websites that I go to have a call to action right in the center of the screen, prime real estate, right? And that call to action is normally schedule a free consultation with me. I am not ready to schedule a consultation with you. I am doing research. I am trying to figure out who you are and do I even like you, right? Yeah. So I tell clients to move that up to the top somewhere, have it there, but on the right there in that prime real estate, how about download a free copy of my book, or we have another service that we are now providing we call it done for you lead magnets. So they're like 28-page little booklets type things. It's a process. We do it very much like we create books. One phone call, we get the information, we create it, you approve it, it's done. Put that on your website. Download my 3 ebook on whatever your client's problem is. Let them download, let them engage with you. send them a few emails, always saying, when you're ready, why don't you schedule a call with us? It changes the game and it allows them to engage instead of bouncing off your website going, yeah, I don't know, I'm not ready for a call yet. You just lost them. Let's game. So I don't know why I went down that rabbit trail. But
well, it's good though, because, I'm going to shift gears a bit and talk about, all right. So back to your thought process about this lead magnet. So, I don't think it's any secret to anybody that's going to be listening to this that the sales cycle has been changing, right? And the push versus pull is changing. And so what you just laid out, great example of the pull, right? The pull sales cycle. And so, building on that, right? I'd love to chat through, because a lot of the clients that I work with, they're in varying industries, varying size businesses. You can have some, product-based businesses like a manufacturing company. You could have a service-based business like a, team of lawyers, right? Yeah. And so what you often will hear, especially in that marketing and sales cycle, is, well, that doesn't work in our world. It's kind of, thanks, but no thanks. So I'd love, since you have so many great stories and examples, I'd love to maybe just unpack a couple of them from maybe some varying industries that you've worked with, from that kind of pull, that marketing message that comes together and is cohesive, that then, you do the lead magnet, you do some other kind of, assessment, you do something to pull people into your sphere versus constantly going out and say, buy my thing, my thing's great, my thing's better than the next person's, thing. So I'd love to maybe dive into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it goes back to the basic principle of marketing, that your marketing should either attract your ideal clients or repel people. Okay, number one. Number two, you need to engage with people at some level. If you're going to go out, Dave, and buy another car, okay, you're going to do some research. You're not just going to show up on the dealership on tomorrow and say, I'm here to buy a car, put me in a car. You're not going to do that. Nobody does that. You've researched, right? You've read, you've gotten to know that car or the dealership. And all of that, right? What do you do if you don't know any car salesperson? How do you feel when you walk on the dealership, into the dealership? You get out of your car and you see the guy coming out of the dealership. What are you feeling?
Yeah.
Right?
I'm just looking.
Yeah, seriously, I'm just looking. Yeah. That's why people go to car dealerships on Sundays, because there ain't no salespeople there. Don't do your business that way. You want to have a conversation, okay? And that's what these lead magnets are all about. It's allowing you to have a conversation to meet and solve, hopefully, a small need of your prospect. It's about them. And then, obviously your story's in there and your contact information, but it's about them and what challenges they're facing and how you solve that. Okay. That's one of the first things, because once they get that, then they're coming back to your website for more information. And hopefully in your lead magnet, you're putting QR codes to a podcast that you've been on, maybe, or something else that you're engaging them. And let me ask you a question, Dave. How many of your competitors market like this? Yeah, nobody does. So that's why we work with so many clients. So most of my examples are, we've done a few lead magnets, but I don't have them to show you right here. And I do have one I could show you. But think about this. These are books, but think about it being a lead magnet. Okay, doesn't have to be a book. So I had a home inspector. Okay, you talk about an industry where they always say that won't work for me, right?
Yeah,
so expensive, right? Home inspectors. Do you remember the guy who inspected your house when you bought it? Yeah, neither do I. Because they're commodities. They're like a dime a dozen, right? Well, this guy came to me and says, Michael, I want to be different. I want to be a bestseller and all that. I said, okay, Chris, what do you do? Tells me about it. I said, what do you do for fun? And he's like, oh, I'm a high school football referee. Okay, on nights and weekends. I got my whole team. And he's like, there are so many similarities between refereeing football and home inspection, because you got rules and you got fouls and you got, and I went, wow, I never. So I took that and we made him, all right, we published his book. It's The Official Guide to Home Inspections, right? By Chris Perry, America's home inspection referee. This could easily just be a lead magnet on his website, right? But it goes back to that message, having a clear message first, then having something that somebody could, is that actually at all intriguing to you? That you can have a home inspector that's dressed like a referee? Tell me more.
Yeah.
Well, just download my free report. And now they're in your world. And when you onboard them properly, when you have an email sequence that orients them to who you are and how you serve people. Forget about what you do, because they probably already know that. Here's one of my marketing philosophies. People buy who you are more than what you do. And so in all of your marketing, how you're showing up in your lead magnets, whatever, talk about who you and your company are. What do you stand for? How do you treat people? Talk about that, because that's the human side of marketing.
Yeah.
And when you do that consistently, people understand you're different, and they start to like you. And well, we all make decisions emotionally, even if it's in manufacturing. It's an emotional decision.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, right? Like, 100% agree with you. And what's interesting to me, like the example about, talking about, who we are, what do we represent, how do we treat people, right? That's different than, flashing your, your kind of company slogan up there, or your core values up there, right? Because what's underneath that is a lot of what the perception often is that it's lip service. So instead of doing that, right, let those things come through the stuff that you're doing out there, right? So maybe it is a video of you walking around, let's talk about manufacturing, the shop, and interviewing people, or saying, hey, what's the best part about working here? What do you love the most about, the 15 years you've been here? What do you love the most about the 25 years you've been here? Like all of those different things, but giving real examples. And the other part I would say, is kind of, and you mentioned it, like so few companies are doing this stuff and doing it well and doing it at scale. Because that's the other thing I'll hear from people is like, oh, well, it's not only is it not going to work, but everybody's doing this. It's like, no, nobody's not, there may be some people that are out there doing it. Right. But the market is wide open to own a lane where people really dive into this stuff and, really bring other folks into their story, into their sphere. So, I love that. I want to switch gears just a bit and kind of as we start to wind this thing down. But I want to talk about your kind of tool that you've built out to help folks, right? From this kind of the credibility calculator that you've put together. Let's talk a little bit about that, kind of what was the precipice of creating that, and how does it help people with all of the things that we've kind of unpacked in this conversation?
Yeah, great question. And so you can find the calculator on our website, paperbackexpert.com, or just go to thecredibilitycalculator.com. Why did I create it? Because I kept getting people asking me, Michael, what is credibility? How do I know? And I mean, I got that question for about 3 or 4 months over and over, and I thought, there's got to be a good answer or a good way to figure this out. And so I sat down one day and really started thinking about, okay, what is credibility? And remember, you have to understand that marketing and credibility all happens in the mind of your audience. Okay, you have to understand that. So my question was, okay, how do people think about and rate one person's credibility over the other? And I came out with 20 questions, 20 categories. And so we created this online calculator. It takes under 5 minutes, 20 questions. You just answer them. And what we will do is produce for you a result, 0 to 100. How much credibility do you have in the eyes of your audience? And then after you get your results, you will get 5 videos that will explain how can you increase your level of credibility in the mind and eyes of your audience. That's what it's all about. And we've had hundreds of people take it, get help from it, because it's this credibility that is my lane, right? Helping people build credibility and trust. It's just a weird lane because nobody really understands what credibility is, or how do you know if I have it or not? So I built a credibility calculator to answer that.
I love it. They're kind of right up there with authenticity, right? You got to be credible. You got to be authentic. You got to tell stories, and it's a struggle to fill all 3 of those buckets sometimes.
It really is. It really is. So those are, that's why I build it. And then I always tell my clients and prospects and people I talk with, it's just be yourself, right? Yeah. Be fun. You are way more interesting than you give yourself credit for. Show up like this and people will start connecting with you and have conversation. Yeah. That's really where it starts. People want to be real.
Yeah, I love that. I heard this really good slogan from somebody. It's, nothing good happens outside of a conversation. And, no matter, again, back to whether we're talking about being a business owner, whether we're talking about, leading a team of people, or we're talking about somebody doing the work, right? Anybody can benefit from these things. If you're trying to raise your credibility, if you're trying to kind of build that differentiation out, I encourage you to go check out Michael's tool, the credibility calculator, and to start following along with what content he's putting out there. This stuff is valuable, regardless of if you aspire to be an author. Is why I was so excited to have you on, because obviously the authorship is one element of this, but underlying all of that is this marketing message. And the ability to make yourself stand out in, a crowded space often.
It is. Let me tell you a quick story as we end.
Yeah.
So I wrote my book in 2013, so on marketing, right? And that launched my whole career. But after about 3 years in business and Paperback Expert, we hired a marketing consultant to help us, right? And he was expensive, and he told us to do some expensive marketing, and we did, and it wasn't working. And so we knew we were in trouble. So I built a spreadsheet. I'm going somewhere. I built a spreadsheet. It's called the Paperback Expert Go Broke Date. And I thought it was going to be like 9 months out or 12. It was 3 months out, Dave. Yeah. And I said, oh my God. So we fired him. But I had to get rid of my biggest expense in my company. That was me. So I laid myself off and I had to go find a job. And I thought, well, how am I going to find a job? Well, being a weird, wacky guy, I don't want to do a resume. So I did a backwards resume and did really. But what I did is I sent my book to a few companies with my resume stuck in it. I got all kinds of interviews and I got a job because of the book. So if you're in corporate America and you want to climb the corporate ladder, or you want to go to another company, what better way than doing something, whether it's a big book, a small book, a white paper? Take your story and put it into something that's different and unique, and being known for who you are and what you deliver changes the game. It really does. So I'm done.
Man, what a way to wrap that up. Jeez, oh, Pete. Like, were you just saving all of that? Like, that was unbelievable. That was unbelievable. What a great story, but just such a cool example of getting yourself in front of the people you really want to get in front of, but doing it in just such a way that stands out. People can't help but take notice. I mean, that is, if that doesn't nail it for you out there, people that are listening to this, I don't know what can. I can't wait to clip that out and put that all over social media. Michael, is there anything? Well, before I ask you that, how can people get in touch with you? I'll make sure I put all this stuff in the show notes. But what are some ways people can find you when they're looking for you?
Yeah, the easiest was paperbackexpert.com. That's our website. That is the hub of all things Michael. There's free resources, videos, schedule a call with everything you need. Paperbackexpert.com.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'll make sure to put that in the show notes so people can access it quickly. As we kind of wind this thing down, I mean, you literal mic drop moment for me. But is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to leave as parting words, as some parting thoughts for folks that are out there and maybe listening to this?
Just, reiterating what we've talked about. Be yourself. Tell your story. You're more interesting than you really think you are, and just have those human conversations and show up. Show up as who you are, because it's going to make a difference. That's the biggest thing, Dave.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Michael, thanks so much for coming on the Everyday Business Problems podcast.
It was so much fun. We should do it again because we just had way too much fun. Thanks, brother, for having me.
Thank you so much for listening today. If we brought you any value, please rate, subscribe, and share our podcast. Also, be sure to connect with us on social media by searching @The Crysler Club. Until next week, I'm your host, Dave Crysler.